Welcome to Annunciation Radio's Faith with Reasons, the program that examines what the church teaches and why. Faith with Reasons.
Well, thank you so much, Adrienne. So great to be with you on this Wednesday as we come on the air live. I'm Ron Finn, Shane Stanfield in studio as well. And Shane, I haven't talked to you since Monday. So what's new?
Not much, just work at the parish, different life, so still getting settled in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're probably getting close to getting your sea legs there in parish work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now you, just to remind people, you retired young.
Yes.
From your engineering job.
Yes.
And with time on your hands, you decided, I got to give back somehow. Mm-hmm. And so you are actually working for St. Joan of Arc Parish here in Toledo.
Yeah, which is actually the parish that serves where our studio is located. Mm-hmm. I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I always wanted to get into ministry. You know, I was done with a career, 35 years of my career, 25 years at AT&T. And I just wanted to do something different, something that matters. And I always had in the back of my mind it was going to be some sort of ministry work. And here I am, you know. I was very, very surprised that I was offered the position, you know, at St. Joan of Arc. I didn't expect myself to be doing any of this, but quite frankly, it really is right up my alley. Being a Catholic convert myself, you know, actually, my primary responsibility is bringing people into the church, educating people through OCIA. So, what a blast! I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, and there's a lot of hunger out there, and obviously, since you just started this job, just in the last couple of weeks, really. Yeah. You're already attracting some new candidates.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's me that's attractive, but
right, you're already catching them with the net.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
But yeah, it's been a complete joy, and I'll look forward to this time around, and hopefully many years to come.
That's great. I got to be honest with you. When you first told me that you were, looking into parish work and you were talking with them and so forth, I thought, well, what's he going to do? Mow the lawn? And I thought, well, that'd be a pretty good gig.
I could ride the lawnmower. I don't mind doing maintenance work, but no,
you're tilling the soil for the Lord.
Yeah, I'm delighted. This is it's kind of a dream come true for me. So.
Well, great. Yeah, keep us posted.
Will do.
I'd like to check in with you every week, see how things are going. So it kind of gives you, when you look at parish life, you're kind of looking at a slice of the Catholic Church as a whole. The whole apostolate, and it's a microcosm of the entire church.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's kind of neat to see where we're at on the ground.
Yeah, it is for sure.
We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about a book. We're going to be talking with an author spokesperson who is an author in his own right, but the book we're talking about was not written by him. So John Preiss is going to be joining us here. He is the director of the Fatima Family Apostolate and, as I mentioned, an accomplished Catholic author. 3 books to his name. He's dedicated promoting devotion to Our Lady of Fatima and deepening the faith of families worldwide. John's a convert to the Catholic Church, something that Shane can relate to. Mm-hmm. John brings a passionate and personal perspective to his ministry. He and his wife, Teresa, reside in Hanceville, Alabama, a beautiful place to be. That's, of course, where the shrine is that Mother Angelica built. They lived there with their 10 children, and John's here to share details of the new book from Sophia Institute Press, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite, by legendary author and speaker Father Robert Fox. I've heard many talks by Father Robert Fox. The Eucharist is available now at your favorite Catholic bookstore and at EWTNRC.com, also at Sophia Institute Press. John Preiss, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Everything's pretty calm here in Hanceville, so yeah, everything's great, and I'm fortunate to be here with you guys today.
Well, we're really fortunate to have you here to share some details about this wonderful book, and also to talk about your apostolate, too, as well, because I think a lot of people, myself included, very much interested in Our Lady of Fatima. There's so much to learn there. We know a lot already, but it seems like every time we talk about this, we learn a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. And, of course, being there in Hanceville, you say you're really within walking distance of the shrine, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we're probably 1 mile maybe to the front door. I don't know. haven't tried it yet, but we're pretty close, and we're fortunate. I think that kind of ties in with our faith, as far as when you have a large family and being close to such a beautiful place, and you have the opportunities to go to Mass daily if you want. You have the opportunity to go to confession every day if you want. You got all these opportunities, and I think it's fortunate for us as a family, a large family too, to be close and to have those sacraments available, and to be able to go to Eucharist adoration and things like that, to deepen our faith and to really strengthen our spiritual journey.
Now, every once in a while, does Teresa just say to you, John, take these 10 kids up to the shrine grounds and have them run around the grass for a while and come back in a couple hours?
She probably would tell me that sometimes, yeah. She actually tells me to take them to work with me. And well, I mean, my real job is in construction, real estate, so yeah, I have to take some of the little ones every once in a while. You know how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
We homeschool, the children. So, yeah, some days how it goes. It's just, but it's a beautiful thing, and we're happy with the situation that we're in, and thankful for that. So
that's beautiful. So, some days are take your tribe to work day. I like that.
That's right. And 3 of my boys, my oldest boys, they work with us anyway in the construction business, and my daughters do some things too. So, but it's a family business, family atmosphere here. So,
well, you truly are blessed then.
Yeah, it's been how a lot of people talk about large families, and sometimes it's a challenge. It definitely is, but there's a lot of benefits, and sometimes people on the outside that don't have large families, or even our Protestant brothers and sisters that might have a few children, 1 or 2 or 1, they look at it differently and really don't understand it. But when you really get into it, you're like, wow, the working together, the building of the relationship, and that the family starts our spiritual journey, where if we can get along, work together inside the family, you leave that family and you work outside the family. It's part of our spiritual journey too.
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat when you really put it all together.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about this book. I want to hear about Father Fox's words in this book, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite. It's a new book that's out now, but is it a new book is the question, or did they reissue this?
It's a republish. It was one that Father had done several years ago, and he had just a great devotion, of course, as a priest, especially to the Eucharist. We all should have that is our epitome of our faith, right? The Eucharist.
Yeah.
But he just seen what we all see when you have, you have so much at Mass, things going on that shouldn't really be going on, irreverence at Mass, not receiving the Eucharist properly, not being properly disposed. It's just, he saw these things as a parish priest, and I think that's what really spurred him on to really write this book. And Father's a writer that kind of wrote in a simplified way, because at first our apostolate was geared towards teaching children and the youth. And so it's not a children's book, of course, but he writes in a simplified way that you can understand it really well. And I just love the book that the way the chapters are lined out, when it goes to, you talk about the biblical roots of the Eucharist in the first chapter, then it gets down to our Eucharistic adoration. It kind of goes. There's a timeline here. It seems like that the way he wrote it, and I think that's what I really like about the book, and also some of the things like in our faith, praying the Rosary. We get mechanical. Sometimes we're busy. We get busy, and sometimes we might even go to Mass and not really be in full understanding or really paying attention like we should.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you really understand through his book here what is actually taking place at the Mass, totally what's taking place, what's going on, who's involved, the angels, everything in heaven. There's a perfect title, Heaven and Earth Unite. I mean, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So it's a great book, and I hope that many people can get it, and especially families too, because you can read it in your family. The parents could read to the children about different things in the book and share and discuss, and so there's a lot of good opportunities with the book.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about Father Fox, and also how you met him and the involvement with the Fatima Family Apostolate. How does that all tie in, and what attracted you to him? How did you discover him? And then you met him, obviously, right?
Oh yeah. So what happened was Father, he was a diocesan priest in South Dakota. He used to have congresses in South Dakota. He would do the Marian congresses and some big name. He'd get Mother Angelica would be there. Scott Hahn came to some of these events, and even the Bishop of Fatima came one year.
Wow!
And this is in South Dakota. And the neat thing about this South Dakota place is that Father built this outdoor shrine, and it's in a town called Alexandria, South Dakota. That was his last parish, and he was there for 18 years. And the interesting thing about this, they always used to tell me, because I went up there twice, and it's a town. The population is 600 people in this whole town, right? And so when they would have these Marian congresses, 3,000 people would show up.
Wow!
And they overtook the town when they'd have these congresses, and so he started doing a lot of that. But in his earlier years, before he really started our apostolate, he was working with youth, and he did some things with the Blue Army up in New Jersey. He did some work with them with a cadet program. He always had a devotion to Our Lady, and he had this. At one point, he had this religious brother back in 1974, came with the miraculous statue of the Blessed Mother, was traveling with the statue and giving talks, and he stopped at Father's parish. And that's what really inspired Father to, he went to Fatima that same year in October, and that's what started the Fatima work. And so I met him. I came into the church in 2000. Father moved to Alabama after he retired in South Dakota, moved to Alabama. He wanted to be here close to Mother Angelica and EWTN because he was still doing some programs and still writing books. And we also had a magazine at the time that he published. So I met him in 2003. And I actually was on a construction site because Father had called a friend of mine to remodel the bathroom in the house that he bought. Huh. So I just went over there with him to help. And I started talking to Father, and I was just, I think when you're younger, you're always intrigued by people that do a lot of things and a lot of great things. Father writing all those books really intrigued me. I was like, who is this guy and what is he doing, I even came home and told my wife, I said, I met this priest today. His name is Father Robert J. Fox, and he writes books and does audio stuff. And she said, I used to listen to his Storytime album when I was a child.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
So he used to do all these Storytime, and her father and mother used to get the Storytime albums that Father would do. He had Lives of the Saints and Stories for Children. So it was kind of a neat connection there. And then I just started getting to where I went to visit him more and just asking questions and just talking. Then we became friends, and then he got old. He started getting older, and I would take him to doctor appointments and things like that. And we would talk about the apostolate, and I wasn't involved. I would just say, how's things going, and what are you working on, that kind of thing. And then one day he said, have you ever thought about writing an article? I said, I always wanted to write an article, Father, but I just don't think I have it in me. And he said, well, just you write it. He said, you write it and I'll make it look good. Okay. He said, that's what a good editor does. They make it look good. I said, okay, well, I'll write it. So I remember the first one I wrote was Winning Souls something on evangelization, winning souls for Christ, or something like that. And then from that point on, I started writing for his magazine almost every quarter, and it was on like parenting and child training, and things like that. And then the interesting part about the story is that I never really thought I would be involved in the apostolate, but Father started having some anxiety issues with it because he was in Alabama and the headquarters was actually in Minnesota. And I started seeing him really getting stressed out about this. And I felt called to ask him if I could help, in some way. And so I remember thinking of the Eucharist here, right? We're thinking about Eucharist adoration here. So I said, I'm going to go to this church and pray about it. So I remember going to make a visit in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and I asked Our Lady, I said, if you want me to help Father Fox, I need a sign, because I knew it would be a big endeavor, to help.
Sure.
And I heard the most beautiful bells ringing that I ever heard before. And I thought it was a church, or you think it's that guy with the cell phone 3 pews up.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, what's going on here? And I was like, that couldn't have been. And so me being the holding somebody to it, I said the same prayer I asked the Blessed Mother. I said, if you want me to help Father with the Fatima Family Apostolate, I need a sign. And the bells rang again. And I said, well, so I went back. I didn't tell Father about it. I didn't tell anybody about it, really. And 2 weeks later, I was building a house. I was in the bathroom finishing it up upstairs. I get a call from Father Fox, and he said, I wanted to ask you, I need to talk to you. He said, I want you to be the executor of my will.
Wow.
Because if something happens to me, I don't know what to do, because his family wasn't here. All his family pretty much was gone. He had nephews, nieces and nephews. And he said, I also want you to be the vice president of the Fatima Family Apostolate.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay, Father, I'll do it. And so then that's when I started, and I didn't really do much at first. Towards the end of the first year that I was involved, we ended up building a building downtown in Hansville. I built it for our headquarters, and we moved all the books from Minnesota to Alabama that he was in storage. And so we ran things out of there for a while. But, you have to realize in Alabama here, I don't know if you've done any research on this, probably not, but we're only like 5.5%, maybe 6% Catholic right now, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So every street corner we have a Baptist church or a gas station or a Dollar General. So,
right.
So it's really Protestant heavy, here where we're at. So anyhow, I did the building. We built it, and we did some processions, and we do things like that. And we still have the building. We use it for the homeschoolers. Our homeschool groups use it a lot. But I did move pretty much the headquarters to Father's old house. So after Father passed away, my wife and I bought his house that he lived in. He didn't own it. It was somebody on the street owned it. And we bought it. We lived there. We outgrew it. And I turned it into the Father Robert J. Fox and Our Lady of Fatima Museum.
Oh, wow.
And there's only like one or two in the United States, and we're one of those. And what we do is we have Father's articles and letters from the Vatican, and we have a lot of relics, first-class relics of different saints, and we have a little gift shop. And so if you're on the way to the shrine, the house is on the road. So that's kind of how everything transpired. Like I said, it was a big endeavor. I had a young family at the time. Everybody was still little, and it was hard. It was an easy decision, but a hard one in some ways to take over, because, and then anytime a founder I think Edo Shin even could relate to this, or anybody. Anytime a founder passes away, things change. You know, your loyalty people that was loyal to him is not always loyal to you.
Yeah.
I had to learn a lot and made some wrong choices as far as, you know, trying different things. You try to build a grotto over here or send a mail out to here or do this or, you know, and so, yeah, some of that stuff didn't work out, but that's just small things. But we're still continuing on. We're in our own little way. We promote things through our website. I've written, like I said, the 3 books. The one I did with Our Sunday Visitor was an Amazon bestseller at one time on Fatima. So we're just doing our thing here and just trying to. Our goal is to get people closer to God, and especially with this book here, I think this is the perfect example of what needs to happen now, and we're just fortunate to be at this spot where we're at.
Yeah. Now the mission, you have a defined mission for the Fatima Family Apostolate. What exactly is that? I mean, is this obviously you are working from the perspective of a family, and growing a family closer to God, but is it necessarily defined in a particular way?
Well, I guess, you know, there's so many different Fatima apostolates, and some people, they ask the question, what's the difference between the Fatima Family Apostolate and the World Apostolate of Fatima, or American East Fatima, or the Apostolate for Family Consecration? Those are all tied into Fatima, and ours is basically family. Yeah. You know, we're using the message of Fatima for the sanctification of family life.
Beautiful.
Because the message of Fatima is the nucleus of our faith, and because it includes everything that is important in our faith is inside that message. And we want, like, families praying together, praying the rosary every day, like Our Lady said.
Yeah.
We want to try to get all families praying the rosary every day, right? We want them to wear the brown scapular, because the brown scapular is the outward sign that we belong to Our Lady. We want them to do the 5 First Saturdays. I call the 5 First Saturdays, that's the most important part of the message nowadays, because that is going to lead us to the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. And what the 5 First Saturdays, the key about it is the nucleus of our faith. It is what God wants us to do to get to that triumph, to help us. And that is confession, adoration, rosary, and the Eucharist. All those 4 things are tied into the First Saturday devotion. And if we can get all families doing the First Saturdays once a month, then it would change our society. Because I even tell priests this, you know, I have some come to the museum and I'll go give the tour and talk to them. And I say, if you could just get in your parish doing this First Saturday devotion, could you imagine you have all these families going to confession at least once a month, because that's part of you got to either go 8 days before or 8 days after the first Saturday to make it legit.
Right.
So you got that happening, right? Then you have them making an extra mass. You have them at least saying one rosary together once a month, you know. You got them going to adoration, right? And then you have them going to mass. So all these 4 things are tied into that. And if the priest could implement that in their parish, it would just change our society, no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. Just bringing people into closer holiness, into deeper holiness. That'd be a wonderful suggestion. Our guest on Faith with Reasons, John Preiss, who's the director of the Fatima Family Apostolate, and knew Father Robert Fox for a time, and has pretty much taken over. And we were talking about the museum that he built for it and everything. And we're talking primarily today about his book, Father Fox's book, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite. And Father Robert Fox, it looks, he died in what, 2009? Is that right?
Yes, it was 2009, Thanksgiving Day, 2009. So
wow.
It was a special day. I was there, you know, when he passed away. So that was a blessing for me. It was me and 2 other people. 2 other people were saying the rosary, and I was there. And
beautiful.
I had left because I have a sister-in-law that was a mother, and they were having a family visit, so I was down the road, and the two people that I had staying with Father that were saying the rosary with him called me and said, Father wants you to come back. So I went back, and then he started having some breathing issues, and then I sat there with him. I held his hand and talked to him, and he passed away.
Wow.
So for me, I think sometimes I forget that the spiritual, this is about Father Fox and his work and the things that he's done, but what it's done for my life and my spiritual journey is unbelievable, and when I look back through it all and to experience those moments with him, and I even got to spend time with him when he would travel. He was a spiritual director for a man that had the stigmata.
Wow.
His name was Irving Huell. He's from Michigan, and he's a servant of God right now. And our apostle is the only apostolate that has a book about him.
Wow. And
Father was his spiritual director, and I would travel. I went a couple times to some healing service with him and this man. And so I just, for my life, too, all these spiritual benefits that I received, just being a part of this, here I am a convert, and didn't know anything about really Catholicism. And 3 years after I convert, I meet Father Fox. And so, it's just, sometimes we have to reflect back on our lives and say, wow, what blessings and graces that we received that we don't even really think about,
Yeah.
So.
But it sounds like he was pretty much a spiritual director for you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what it was, and he was funny too, because there's times when, because I'm an Alabamian, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's a northerner, so it was a big challenge for him. He's like, he says, I don't understand the words you're saying. You need to speak clearer. You're mumbling, or he would tell me, you're mumbling. You need to speak clearer, and all this stuff. And he said, I'm just telling you that because I love you, and I care about you, and I know that you're going to need this in the future, to be able to speak to people. And so he was that type of person to me. And then we would joke because we went on some trips. Like we went to my father-in-law and mother-in-law's house in Louisiana. He did a homeschool convention, and we would drive down there, and we just had a good old time. And he was a farmer's boy, He was a farm. His family was in farming, and he was just down to earth, just a good person, good holy priest.
I can't wait to hear more about him and more about you, frankly, and more about this book as we continue. Take a little break right now. Faith with Reasons here on Annunciation Radio. We'll be right back.
The married singles lifestyle describes couples that may have lost the sense of closeness they once had and are living more like roommates. Retrovi teaches couples how to survive times like these in their marriages. Retrovi has helped tens of thousands of couples around the world. To learn more about Retrovi or to register for a weekend near you, call 1-800-470-2230 or visit us on the web at www.helpourmarriage.com.
Catholics acknowledge the papal authority of Peter through Jesus' threefold blessing over Peter in Matthew 16, verses 15 to 19. Jesus gives Peter a new name, Rock, upon which he will build his church, and gives Peter the keys to the kingdom, quoting nearly verbatim from Isaiah 22, verse 22. Yet Protestants claim, by getting behind the English to the Greek, that Jesus was the Petra, or large stone, and Peter was a mere Petros, or little pebble in Greek. However, when you get behind the Greek to the Aramaic, the language that Jesus and the apostles spoke, Jesus says in both places, "You are Kepha," Aramaic for rock, "and on this Kepha I will build my church." 4 times in Galatians and 4 times in 1 Corinthians, Paul preserves Peter's new Aramaic name by calling him Kepha. Examining the truths of the Catholic faith, this is faithforensics.org.
Have you ever wondered about church teaching, what's happening in our Diocese of Toledo, how to respond to challenges to your faith? Bishop Daniel E. Thomas takes time each week to answer your questions on the Bishop's Corner, and he wants to hear from you. Submit your questions at artoledo.com, on our app, or email to bishop@annunciationradio.com. Include your name and parish or town and listen for his answer on the next show.
Now, back to Faith with Reasons here on Annunciation Radio.
Welcome back here. Shane Stanfield with Ron Finn, and today we're blessed to have John Preiss with us. He's the director of the Fatima Family Apostolate, and he's also an accomplished Catholic author dedicated to promoting devotion to Our Lady of Fatima, deepening the faith of families worldwide. He's a convert to the Catholic Church. John brings a passionate and personal perspective to his ministry. John and his wife Teresa reside in Huntsville, Alabama with 10 children. He's here today with us to share the details of a new book from Sophia Institute Press, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite. And this book was by legendary author and speaker, Father Robert Fox. The Eucharist is available now at your favorite Catholic bookstore and at Sophia Institute Press. And John, the first half hour is just absolutely amazing, hearing your story and your journey to becoming, not shortly after becoming Catholic, and coming into contact with Father Fox and becoming very, very closely tied with the Fatima Family Apostolate. It's amazing that you did so much in a very short period of time, and it was really at the tail end of his life. But you were seemingly so blessed to spend this time with him. Just out of curiosity, you're obviously a convert to the Catholic faith. I think you said you entered the church in 2000. Was it your wife that was Catholic? Did we understand that correctly?
Yes, my wife was Catholic, but I didn't know her at the time when I was going to the church. I knew her I knew her family.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met her cousin was the one that I went and did the work with on Father's house.
Okay.
And the neat thing about them was they were a large family. They had 8 children, and they were really into the evangelization. They would go at the local parish, and they would be the ones out there. They would hand out audio cassette tapes by Ken Hensley, Scott Hahn, Tim Staples.
Yeah.
All those guys, and I'm like, I'm devouring them, and going through them, and it really made an impact on my life. And so I started coming into the church. That's when I kind of got the discernment with talking with them. I met my wife at one of their events at their house, but I really didn't. We kind of, how do you say it? We didn't hit it off there, So
Sure.
It was later on.
Yeah.
But it was kind of neat to go through that process of learning from somebody that really knew their faith. I think that was the key, and that's why I think we all have to really try to know at least the basics well.
Sure.
And these guys, the father and the son, and them, they really knew. They could really explain the faith well. We would go into debates in the car because we'd go out, hang out together, and then we'd come home and he'd drop me off at my house, or we'd sit in the car, and he's like, "What about this? What about that?" Because I'm from the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, which was the more conservative Lutheran, and the Mass and the Lutheran service is very, to be honest with you, very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The prayers are almost even the same. There's a few words here and that are different. So it's kind of neat to really see that and to go through that process. And one of the hardest, it was still a difficult challenge just because my dad, my parents were really into their faith. As they went to church every Sunday. My dad went to Lutheran grade school, Lutheran high school. He was the elder in the church. He sang in the choir. And so he took it. It was harder on him than my mom because my mom actually was a Russian Orthodox and converted to the Lutheran church. So that's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
But so she kind of understood more in what I was talking about and going through, but he really didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so that was very hard in some areas and sometimes. But to be honest with you, it was the Eucharist again that drew me closer to the church, because I remember I was talking to this elderly gentleman that was Catholic, because I started going even to the meeting. They started having a spiritual group Bible study meeting at the Catholic Church with this same family, and they invited me to come. So I would go every Sunday to this. I wasn't even Catholic yet, and I was going. And this elderly gentleman came up to me and said, Jesus is in there. All you have to do is go in the church. Jesus is in the church. I'm like, well, Jesus is everywhere, right? He said, no, but Jesus is in the church. I'm like, okay. And then later on, I started understanding what he was talking about. And I was asking more questions. And so I went in there and I made a visit in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And then I went again and I kept going. Then even on my lunch breaks, when I was working downtown there in our small town here in Coleman, Alabama, I would drive by that church, and I couldn't drive by without stopping.
That's great.
That's when I realized I knew something was different.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and I was just begging our Lord, how am I going to tell my dad? And how am I going to make this happen? There's no way this is going to work. And I kept praying and praying, and it happened, and I said, I have to leave. I can't stay. I have to come over, I have to leave the Lutheran church. I can't do it anymore. And then it happened. Our Lord provided the things that I needed, and I mean, my dad wasn't happy, but he accepted it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was a smoother transition than I thought it would be. And,
see, that should
it was
be
all because of
I have a title for you for your next book, "Seized by the Eucharist," and that could be the whole.
Yeah, I like that.
The whole book.
I like that.
for a lot of those,
I'll probably forget.
Yeah, write it down. Right. So many that come from other faith traditions, they find the Eucharist to be kind of a stumbling block. I mean, it's that and it's Mary, right? Did you? I guess coming to understand what the Eucharist is and the the real presence, the body and blood, soul and divinity of our Lord. Was that a difficult thing for you to kind of take in and get?
It was for a little while, I think, for me, because I just, and it's kind of strange now because when you go back to the Lutheran, I had to go. My dad passed away in 2021, and I had to go back to their service, and I remembered a lot of things coming back to my mind. But then my brother, my mom and my brother still go to the Lutheran church. Most of my family do. And my brother would be telling me, well, we're receiving communion today, the body and blood. They're saying that they're receiving the body and blood. But when I was going there, I don't remember them ever saying that, And then the pastor now is making the sign of the cross. And I'm like, they would never do that before, So they've evolved and it's getting closer back to the Catholic Church in some ways. But I think back then when I was thinking about it, is I had an open mind, and then I had a lot of people, like even those tapes, like Scott Hahn, Ken Hensley, Tim Staples. They went through all that and explained it really well.
Yeah.
But I also took in context when Jesus said, "Do this, eat my body, drink my blood, do this in memory of me," because that's what the Protestants kind of lean on. Do this in memory of me.
Yeah.
And like in a remembrance. But he did say, this is my body, this is my blood. So that's where I look back and said, that's what he said. He said, keep doing this because this is my body and blood. Don't say this isn't and just say this is just a remembrance or whatever, But he did say specifically, this is my body, this is my blood. So then I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Same thing with Mary, how I got over that because the Lutheran Church really had zero devotion to the Blessed Mother. I think the statement would be that she was just an instrument used by God to bring Jesus into the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was thinking about that, and somebody explained to me about her being bringing salvation to the world. Her being the new Eve, basically, explained it to me that way. And I'm like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And then how could if Jesus has our flesh, right? Jesus has our flesh. How could he have sin? And how could Mary have sin? It just doesn't work. It's not natural law even extinguishes that theory, right?
Yep.
So that, and I was like, wow, okay, this makes sense. This is right. So that, then I got over it. I understood it. So it's kind of a neat, you just got to really dig a little deeper and really try to understand it, and we all have to educate ourselves. So when we do encounter someone, that's why I was just very blessed that these people, I became friends with them and their son, and they took it in they took it in to evangelize like they should have, and they did it well, and I'm thankful to them for that, because I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for them. So I wouldn't be in this position.
Yeah, no, exactly. In case you're just tuning in, this is John Preiss. We have him as director of the Fatima Family Apostolate, and he's with us today, actually talking about the book, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite, by legendary author and speaker, Father Robert Fox. And John, I guess, obviously we're discussing a book about the Eucharist, and we're talking about you're coming into the church as a convert, and you've gotten over the teachings of the Lutheran Church now, and you're appreciating the Catholic understanding of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. As far as Father Fox's book is concerned, what do you think? What about this book has touched you the most?
I think when I looked through it and when I read it years ago when he did the first copy, right? And then I read it again when the new copy, because they sent it to me in a digital file. Mm-hmm. And I think it's given me a deeper understanding of like the progression of where we are, and how the Eucharist came about. Like I said in the first chapter, the biblical roots. You're thinking about the man in the desert, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking about the wedding feast of Cana. Mm-hmm. You're thinking about feeding the 5,000, and it's like, wow, this is all tied together. This is the buildup. The buildup. And what's kind of interesting too is how it gets down to you go from that, and then you start understanding what is actually happening at the Mass.
Yeah.
All the heavenly court is present at every Mass. The angels are there on the altar. So I'm like, wow, this is, it just makes it, I think for me, it made me have a better understanding why I'm there during the consecration, and just really reflecting on the unity of basically the title of the book, how here we are on earth, but this is how we unite with heaven and how we grow. Jesus is offering himself to us, this sacrifice to help us. And it's just I think that's what the book really did for me, is just kind of open my eyes to have a greater understanding, a deeper, of what's actually really, really, really taking place at the consecration and during Mass. So I think and I hope that everybody that reads the book will have that same experience, because you won't take it for granted ever when you go, and I think sometimes we did. I know myself, you're there and you're thinking about, I got all this stuff to do Monday, or the next day, whatever day it is, and you kind of lose focus every once in a while. But if you really understood what is actually happening here, we should never lose focus. And it's just like I said, Father did a wonderful job as far as this chronological type build up to where we are today. Then he goes on to later on talking about Eucharistic adoration, which has definitely grown over the years. You have more 24-hour chapels open now, and talking about the Eucharist and the Holy Angels. One thing that's kind of neat with Fatima, what I loved, is that Father knew a priest that was a nephew of Sister Lucia, and he would write to him when he was writing a lot of his Fatima books and things and asking information. And he sent this priest a message to ask Sister Lucia what was the most important part of the message of Fatima to her. And so later on, Father received a message. He got it back from the priest. And Sister Lucia said, when the angel gave me Holy Communion, because that was their first Holy Communion.
Wow.
So when the angel gave them Holy Communion, and then to see the angel adoring Jesus in the Eucharist like we do, you know, the angel was kneeling down, and the children were kneeling down, and the chalice and the host was floating, suspended in the air, right? But she said that was the most important part of the message of Fatima for her because it changed everything. She had a greater understanding. Now, they probably had some divine intervention going on there that we might not have, or something, you know. But for her, she said that was it. That was what really opened her eyes and really changed her. She said they didn't even speak to each other for a few days after receiving, because they just didn't understand, and then they had this divine. They had a greater understanding, and this was what propelled them to be able to prepare for what was going to happen in the following year on May 1917.
Yeah, and that would kind of take your speech away. What are you going to say after something like that? And I think you make an excellent point, because although we won't all be blessed, and very few of us will be blessed with these spiritual gifts like Sister Lucia, but we can learn from them and enter more deeply. And with a book like this by Father Fox, we have a wonderful way. If we think we know, well, I already believe in the Eucharist, or, you know, what do I need a book to tell me how to believe in the Eucharist for? When you learn so much, you get so much deeper insight into it, and a reappreciation, I think, of what the Eucharist is and what it means to us, why adoration is important, why the sacrament of reconciliation is important. And also in this book, there are some revelations of Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich in there as well. So this book is really rich with things that will nurture our faith and draw us ever closer to God, to Jesus, through the Eucharist, which is why he instituted it, right?
That's correct. I mean, it's just this is our faith. You know, this is the Catholic faith, and we just need to embrace it. You know, when you think about our society today and what we're dealing with in the world, this is where we need to go. We need to go to Jesus in the Eucharist. We need to go to adoration. We need to make visits to the Blessed Sacrament. We need to be attending Mass as much as we possibly can. This is where our spiritual growth will go. I know myself, there's times when I've decided that I'm going to go to adoration, and I'm there, and it could be for a serious issue, you know, where, hey, I'm praying for, I remember one time it was an adoption of a baby that was close to me on both sides. And I went, I kneeled down, and I prayed, and I said, Lord, I want this to happen. I want this needs to happen. But I heard a no. I felt a no. And I was like, this can't be true. And it didn't happen. You know, so sometimes we're going to go, and God is going to give us what we need, you know, and he's got the plan. And that's the place to start. You know, that's the best place to start is receiving Jesus in the Eucharist, spending time with Jesus in the Eucharist, because that is the epitome of our Catholic faith.
Amen. And just to recap, I think you said in the first half of the program that this book came about by Father Fox because, being a parish priest for as long as he was seeing a decline in the reverence of the Eucharist and reception of the Eucharist. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, he wrote pamphlets called Reverence in Church. There's a Pew statistic out there that 30% of Catholics truly believe in the Eucharist.
Yeah,
now that's a major problem.
Yeah.
You know, if that's true, that's a major problem. So he knew that, and so that's why this book exists, is because he wanted people to have a greater understanding, a deepening in the faith in the Eucharist, and that's why he decided to write this book, because people were just surface level, going to church on a surface level, saying they believe, but they really didn't understand. You can believe in something, but not totally understand it. And this is what the book is for. It's easy reading, and it gives you some really in-depth information of what happens at the Mass, how this all came about, and the importance, the definite importance of Jesus in the Eucharist, and embracing that in our daily spiritual lives.
I think there was the one thing that caught my eye just looking at just the index, the table of contents here. Almost smack dab in the middle is the title of the one chapter, "The Very Center of Catholic Life." And this is more or less, I took it as a play of words. This is the Mass Center, it's the Very Center. And it is. I mean, the Eucharist is the center of our life, but I think it's interesting that it's the Mass center of our life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and think about that. I mean, that is, if we're Catholics, right, and you take away the Eucharist, what do we have?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is definitely it's the center, and everything else is around it, and so. It's just a beautiful. We're just grateful, Thank Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for being with us here on earth too. Like I said, the title is perfect. Eucharist, heaven and earth unite. It's just that's what it is. That's what it is, really.
It's like the Mass is heaven on earth, and we enter into the Eucharist when we're at Mass. So God bless him for. Kind of catechizing his own parishioners at the same time, catechizing the rest of us as well. John Preiss, our guest here on Faith with Reasons, and as the director of the Fatima Family Apostolate, maybe you can give us a little bit more background on what it is that the apostolate does, the mission of the Fatima Family Apostolate, and how we can get kind of involved or at least learn more about it.
Okay, yeah. So Father founded the apostolate in 1986 after doing several work with, writing for all the other. He wrote for several organizations and different things, and was on the Catholic radio, television, and so he decided to start this apostolate. But he was asked by one of the cardinals at the Vatican to start an apostolate for families, and so he started the Fatima Family Apostolate using the vehicle of Fatima to teach that message within the family, to help the family grow in sanctification. And so what we do is we promote a lot of Father's writings, and we use that writings to educate. We have children's books, we have children's audios, we have all of other Father's books he wrote on Fatima. We have the museum is one of our big things that we do. We have it open Thursday, Friday, Saturday on the weekends so that people can come through, and we teach them the message of Fatima. We give them information to help them grow in their faith. We share our relics. We have first-class relics there. We also have the first-class relics of Jacinta and Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And we also have a letter, too, from Sister Lucia saying that the consecration of Russia was done. And that's one of the big pieces that's kind of one of the controversial pieces.
I was just going to say, very controversial.
But it's signed, it's signed by her, and we have a graph analysis letter that states that is her signature, that verified it.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat to have that. So we have a lot of things there. So and we use our website, and I do some videos online, and I continue to write our blog and write articles for the blog. So they can visit fatimafamily.org to learn more about the Fatima Family Apostolate and the information that we have there. And so that's what we do. And then sometimes we'll do some events. We work with other apostolates too. We promote different things, like the Children of the Eucharist has an apostolate, and we help promote they have a procession and things with children. So we just try to work together, try to spread the message any way we can, and we use the majority of Father's materials and the materials that I create to get to families and to help them grow in their spiritual journey using this message of Fatima. So.
I tell you what, that sounds beautiful, and I can just imagine people who are new to the apostolate or kind of encounter it in one way or another, maybe at the museum, just that look of wonder and awe on their faces when they see some of these, first-class relics and the other things that you mentioned. But I would imagine the whole feel of it has got to be, you feel like you're in the presence of something very special there, I'll bet.
Yeah, I mean, most people that come in, they're kind of amazed with the, it's amazing that, Fatima, as well versed and spread, that a lot of people really don't understand the message. And how they can use it in their lives. There's a lot of devotions out here that we all can grab onto.
Mm-hmm.
That, and there's so much that, hey, I'm devoted to this, or this is my devotion. But Fatima is the one, I think, for me, and a lot of people, it was witnessed by 70 to 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty credible there. And then the message itself, like I said, like First Saturdays, for instance, it's the whole nucleus of our Catholic faith: confession, adoration, the Rosary, and the Eucharist. That's the Catholic faith, right? And some of the other devotions don't have all of that in one. So it's kind of neat how Fatima is a great teaching message in itself, and especially even with the children when they're taught to do prayer, to do penance, to make sacrifices. That's all teaching. That's all spiritual that we can do in our own personal lives. So when people come in, they're really amazed with the message itself, and we're hoping that they can grow and learn and bring it back home to their families.
Beautiful. John Preiss, now you're the author of 3 books yourself. How do people connect with you and maybe get your books?
We have it at the FatimaFamily.org website. They can. I have a children's book, a devotional book, and the one by OSB that they had put together. Mm-hmm. It's all on the website, and they can get it there too.
Great. And this book, The Eucharist, Heaven and Earth Unite, by Father Robert Fox, available at SophiaInstitutePress.com and the EWTN RC Religious Catalog. John Preiss, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I can't wait to get into adoration and contemplate all of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
And thanks for joining us for Faith with Reasons today here on Annunciation Radio.